The ocean looks calm on the surface, but beneath those dark waves lies a graveyard the world rarely sees. For thousands of years, ships have carried our hopes, our wars, our families, and our dreams, and sometimes they never came back. Historians estimate that millions of shipwrecks rest on the seafloor across the globe, each one a frozen moment of panic, courage, and tragedy. Some of these stories are famous. Others have been almost forgotten, buried not only by the sea, but by wars, politics, and time. In this video, we're going to look at 10 of the deadliest maritime disasters in history. So, turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and let's dive into the dark history of the world's most devastating shipwrecks. We begin with RMS Lusitania, once a symbol of speed and luxury. This British ocean liner glided across the Atlantic in style, carrying families, businessmen, and travelers chasing a new life overseas. On May 7, 1915, during World War I, the Lusitania was nearing the coast of Ireland. What the passengers didn't know was that German submarines were silently hunting in those very waters. A U-boat locked onto the ship and fired a single torpedo. Moments later, a powerful internal explosion ripped through the hull. The Lusitania began to list sharply to one side. Lifeboats became almost impossible to launch as the deck tilted. In just 18 minutes, the ocean swallowed her whole. Around 1,190 people lost their lives, many of them civilians. The sinking of the Lusitania shocked the world and became a brutal reminder that in modern war, even passenger ships are not safe. Next is the most famous shipwreck of all time, RMS Titanic. The Titanic was marketed as unsinkable, a floating palace filled with chandeliers, grand staircases, and endless luxuries for the rich and powerful, while poorer passengers slept in cramped cabins deep below. On the night of April 14, 1912, the ship sailed through a calm, moonless Atlantic. The sea was so still that it was hard to see waves breaking against ice. A lookout suddenly spotted an iceberg directly ahead. The Titanic tried to turn, but it was too late. The collision tore open the hull along several compartments. Icy seawater rushed in faster than the pumps could remove it. There were far too few lifeboats for the 2,224 people on board. Many boats left half empty amid confusion and fear. At 2:20 a.m., the Titanic broke apart and slipped beneath the surface, leaving more than 1,500 people to die in the freezing black water. The disaster forced the world to confront a bitter truth. Technology means nothing when human arrogance ignores safety. Our next tragedy didn't happen on the open ocean, but on a river in the United States, the SS Sultana. In April 1865, the American Civil War had just ended. Hundreds of Union soldiers, newly freed from brutal prison camps, were desperate to return home. The Sultana was a wooden paddle-wheel steamboat designed to carry about 376 passengers. That night, it was illegally packed with nearly 2,400 people, more than 6 times its safe capacity. At around 2 a.m. on April 27th, several of the ship's boilers exploded in a chain reaction. Flames tore through the wooden decks. Men who had survived years of war were suddenly trapped on a burning riverboat in the dark. Some jumped into the cold Mississippi River, choosing the icy water over the fire. More than 1,500 people died, making it the deadliest maritime disaster in U.S. history, and yet overshadowed in the news by the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. Fast forward to 2002, off the coast of West Africa. The Senegalese ferry MV Joola was designed to carry around 580 passengers. On September 26, 2002, it left the town of Ziguinchor on a routine trip to Dakar, the capital. But that day, the ship was carrying almost 2,000 people, students, traders, families, and children, packed into every possible space. As night fell, the weather changed. Heavy winds and powerful waves began to hit the overloaded ferry. Sometime around 11 p.m., the Joola rolled onto its side and capsized in a matter of minutes. There was almost no time to send a clear distress signal. Official rescue teams arrived far too late. Most of the survivors were pulled from the water by local fishermen in small boats. In the end, only 64 people survived. Around 1,863 lives were lost. One of the worst peacetime maritime disasters in modern history. Sometimes, the worst part of a shipwreck is not the sinking itself, but what the ship is carrying. In 1917, the Canadian port city of Halifax was a vital gateway for ships supplying World War I. On December 6th, the French cargo ship SS Mont Blanc, loaded with highly explosive materials, entered Halifax Harbour. Due to miscommunication and poor maneuvering, the Mont Blanc collided with another vessel, the SS Imo. Fuel spilled, a fire started on deck, and the burning ship drifted closer to shore. At 9:04 a.m., Halifax was shaken by one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history. A massive fireball and shockwave flattened buildings, triggered a tsunami in the harbor, and shattered windows miles away. Around 1,800 people were killed, more than 9,000 were injured, and entire neighborhoods were destroyed in a single, violent moment. A simple maritime collision became a city-destroying catastrophe. Our next disaster takes place in China, on the busy waters near Shanghai. The SS Kiangya was a passenger steamship carrying refugees fleeing the chaos of civil war. On December 4th, 1948, the ship sailed down the Huangpu River, crowded with thousands of desperate people hoping to escape advancing forces. Somewhere near the mouth of the river, the Kiangya is believed to have struck a leftover naval mine from World War II. The explosion ripped through the hull. Within minutes, the ship began to break apart and sink. Officially, the Kiangya was allowed to carry just over 1,000 passengers. That day, there may have been more than 3,000 on board. Estimates suggest up to 3,900 people died, with only a few hundred survivors. For many families, there were no bodies, no graves, only a name on a list, and a ship that never arrived. During World War II, the British liner RMS Lusitania was transformed from a cruise ship into an emergency evacuation vessel. On June 17, 1940, as German forces advanced through France, the Lusitania anchored off the coast near Saint-Nazaire, packed with soldiers and civilians trying to escape to Britain. The ship was built to carry about 2,000 people. That day, estimates suggest up to 7,000 were crowded into every space available. German bombers soon appeared overhead. Several bombs struck the Lusitania directly. Within 20 minutes, the ship rolled over and sank. Thick oil spread across the water and then caught fire. Survivors found themselves swimming through burning fuel, surrounded by wreckage and bodies. The exact death toll remains uncertain, but more than 4,000 lives are believed to have been lost in this single attack. In 1987, the Philippine ferry MV Goya set out on what should have been a routine trip. The sea was calm. Many passengers were already asleep, dreaming of arriving home before Christmas. But the ship was dangerously overcrowded, carrying more than 4,000 people, far beyond its official capacity. On the night of December 20th, Goya collided with the oil tanker MT Vector, which was loaded with thousands of barrels of gasoline and other fuel. The impact triggered a massive explosion. Flames raced across the surface of the water as if the ocean itself had caught fire. There were almost no working radios, no proper emergency procedures, and many life jackets were locked away. Only 26 people from both ships survived. Around 4,300 lives were lost, earning this disaster the grim nickname, the Titanic of Asia. Near the end of World War II, the Baltic Sea became a chaotic escape route for refugees and soldiers fleeing the Eastern Front. The MV Goya, originally a Norwegian freighter seized by Nazi Germany, was loaded far beyond capacity with German soldiers and civilians. On April 16, 1945, more than 7,000 people crowded onto the ship, hoping for one last chance at survival. But Soviet submarines were waiting in the dark. Late that night, torpedoes slammed into the Goya. The explosions tore the ship apart. In less than 4 minutes, the Goya disappeared beneath the freezing Baltic waters. Most passengers never reached the deck. They drowned in the darkness below, trapped in packed compartments. Only about 183 people survived. As many as 6,800 lives ended almost instantly. A ship turned into a mass grave in under 5 minutes. At number 1 stands the deadliest maritime disaster in history, the sinking of the MV Wilhelm Gustloff. Originally built as a Nazi cruise ship in 1937, the Gustloff later served as a hospital ship, then as a floating barracks, and finally as an evacuation vessel. On January 30th, 1945, it left the port of Gotenhafen loaded with German civilians, wounded soldiers, and staff fleeing the approaching Soviet army. Official lists mentioned about 6,500 people, but in reality, more than 10,000 were crammed on board, nearly half of them children. Around 9 p.m., a Soviet submarine fired 3 torpedoes. One hit the bow, one struck the engine room, and one hit the section where many children were sleeping. The lights went out. Panic erupted in the freezing darkness. Within an hour, the Wilhelm Gustloff rolled over and sank into the icy Baltic Sea. It's estimated that around 9,400 people died that night, making this the single deadliest shipwreck ever recorded in human history. Behind every shipwreck is a life and a future that never arrived, a reminder to respect the sea and the cost of forgetting its power.